What is up, game changers and soul warriors? My name is Master Juniper Bloom Mystique. That is what Spirit calls me. I am an Ascension Master, a Master Healer, and a Divine Guide. And today I want to talk about the Merkabah. The Merkabah and the heart chakra and the full understanding of it and the importance of those two components becoming one for the Ascension. First of all, the heart chakra and the Merkabah are part of the chakra system within our energetic body. We have internal chakras to external chakras. We have a multitude of chakras in truth. There are a base 7 main chakras that they would talk about for you on, the old earth, I'll call it, because as the energy is expanding, we should come into the totality of who we really are, which is much more complex than a 7 base chakra system. But in the baseline, we have those 7 base chakras. You have your crown chakra, your third eye chakra, your throat chakra, your heart chakra, your solar plexus, your navel and sacral, and your root. And those are your 7 base chakras. Now, the navel and sacral are somewhat separate and also somewhat together, so I mentioned them together. But let's just say it's the sacral and the root. Those are the ones you commonly hear about. The crown can be depicted as white or purple. The third eye, like a light purple. The third eye is more of the indigo. The throat is blue. The heart is green. The solar plexus, right about the tummy, is yellow. And the sacral is generally depicted in orange, and the root is red. And whenever there are anomalies or closures of the chakras, those colors can become murky, dense, and non-vibrant. When they are open, they are flowing, spinning discs of energy they are represented through, and they are colorful, okay? So the heart chakra in particular is very important for the ascension. They all are important. They all connect. They all flow together. When one is off, it kind of somewhat clouds another. So that's also very important to understand, okay? Now, we are ascending as a species. We are rising in frequency. We are upgrading. We are activating through the DNA of God again, which you might question, why weren't we already that? Actually, we were not. We were and we weren't. Okay, the earth was kind of commandeered and changed and rearranged, and a false blueprint was implemented, or the matrix coding, which was not our reality base. And as we come into our reality base, it's important to understand the Merkabah and the importance of the Merkabah, what the Merkabah is, and the heart center. When you see the heart chakra depiction, it is depicted in kind of like a flower of life symbol, with a Merkabah in the middle. But when I go into somebody's energy, especially when they're not fully awake and when they're not healed and when they haven't healed all karma, their Merkabah is represented in front and separate from the heart chakra. Okay, the Merkabah is the 2 triangle pyramids. Those are also very relevant. Okay, those are 2 triangular pyramids that come together, one pointing up, one pointing down. Okay, the one pointing up is represented by Father Sky, the divine masculine, and the one that points down is Mother Earth, the divine feminine. Father Sky, the moon; Earth, divine feminine, the sun. Because as I have healed the earth and done things to the earth for the ascension, I replace the sun back into the core of the earth through the crystalline grid. Okay, it's very complex, but it also makes a lot of sense. The old earth, the matrix, was kind of taken away from us, manipulated, changed, and the way they did that was ripping apart the divine masculine and the divine feminine and undoing the blueprint of the both of them for earth. The divine masculine and the divine feminine are twin flames. It started with Adam and Eve through God, the creator, and they together, 2 souls together, okay, in balance, hold the balance of the earth. That is true. On my journey, my DM and I, it's a big deal. Together in balance is the balance of the earth. And that is a lot of power. That is a lot of of power and light grid energy. And so they wanted to rip that apart. So they did everything in their power to do so, including defame them, I want to say, like make people think they weren't what they were, put in words that were not true about them, turn them against each other, rip them apart at the soul level, and created an imbalance of the earth, therefore taking the power of the earth. Therefore, everything that came after that was outside of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which caused a separation from the Merkabah to the heart chakra in all individuals that came here. Our job to ascend is to reactivate that Merkabah, realign with the divine masculine and feminine, and create a space where there is no more separation from that in our heart center. This is real. Because as I rose and we healed those, they activated to become one with your heart center. And I also did it to the earth. The earth had a rebuilt Merkabah connected to the divine masculine, the divine feminine, the sun and the moon, and the DNA. Rebuilt the crystalline grid. And the triangles are pyramid shapes, okay? So on my journey, I was activating the pyramids from masculine to feminine. It was the feminine pyramids first that I reactivated. Fiji, Indonesia, Myanmar, Machu Picchu, Budapest, Thailand, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Botswana. Excuse me. Horrible. And then the masculine pyramids came second. I don't know what's going on with my throat, y'all. Forgive me. Which was Kilimanjaro, the Congo, British Columbia, and Ecuador. Okay. So once I activated all those pyramids, we realigned the masculine and feminine at the soul level that I was working through that battle with my twin flame. It started with Jesus and Mary Magdalene because we had to go backwards from which it was undone. Then I went to Sekhmet and Horus, the sun and the moon, realigning that soul level because it's truly the same soul. And then back to Adam and Eve, where we birthed the new earth, the new crystalline grid was birthed, all darkness was removed, all the pyramids were reactivated, the sun and the moon were filled into them. The sun was returned to the connection in the core of the earth, hence Mother Earth, divine feminine in the Merkabah. And the moon was rehealed, realigned, and reestablished as one, all darkness removed, hence Father Sky, the moon, okay, the masculine of the Merkabah. Now you also look at religion. We undid the Sistine Chapel and religion and all those symbolisms from the Star of David, which is the Merkabah. And lo and behold, my DM's name was David, which was totally trippy because I battled that before I undid the Holy Grail, and we returned all those symbolisms back to the one, because they were taken from the one and divided across the earth. There is no division. And when you know what the Holy Grail was, you would understand why that happened. I had to undo that. It was not of light. They stole that soul, okay? The divine masculine, the divine feminine were beaten and tattered and battled and ripped apart. And they did everything in their power to do it and change the earth, which separated us from the divine masculine and the divine feminine, which is the Merkabah representation. So as you rise into new earth, you have to heal, realign with, rebuild, reestablish, reconnect your Merkabah, and become one with it in the center of your heart again. That is true. And it is very important. And it's done through healing your karma, your shadow, not giving your power away to the matrix, because we can no longer be duality anymore. We have to come back into the activated new earth grid through healing, releasing all of the matrix, healing all of our karma through choices of where you give your power to. That's very real. And it happens through like 13 steps, because there was 13 pyramids. There's 13 ascension gates or portals of energy shift. And that is Revelations. I realized what I was doing went along with Revelations, which I had never read until God said, look at this, look at this. So Revelations 21:12 and 21:13 were very important for that work. So we truly do have to heal and open completely the heart chakra, remove all separation and ego and ego is the mind, right? It's heart over mind. We have to reactivate those pyramid forms. I noticed that yesterday in doing my course. I'm like, it is 2 pyramids. It's not just triangles, right? The Merkabah, you can see a depiction of it up in that painting, which was when I birthed New Earth, that painting came through. But that was the Adam and Eve timeline. All the things, right? So the Merkabah is 2 pyramids, one pointing up, one pointing down, the masculine and the feminine. It's all connected, okay? And in order to rise, you have to become one with that again. It needs to be reconnected back to the center of your heart space through the masculine and feminine. That is through God, okay? That is what the earth is. And the divine masculine, the main Adam and Eve, which also is equivalent to Sekhmet and Horus and Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And that blew my mind, but that's true, okay? They all came together and became one again through the journey of the undoing. And that blew my mind. I had no idea, but it's true. And so you guys, as mankind, in order to rise, must truly align again through that. And nothing can be done outside of the masculine and feminine anymore. So you need to activate that DNA. That's what that DNA is, the light grid, the light body, fully opening your heart space and connecting to that grid, that DNA, removing all karma, all the ways that you give your power to the shadow, all separation, no fear, no doubt, no ego can have control over you. And also that's why you must co-create with the divine, with the heart space, with creator, with your higher self, because nothing can be done outside of that all connectedness, outside of the divine masculine and feminine anymore. It all has to be called home. So the Merkabah, the Star of David, was even called home. That power was returned fully to the divine masculine. The sun and the moon were all returned fully to the divine masculine and the feminine. Ra, Eve, Mary Magdalene, all the same, and the sun. Adam, Horus, Thoth was a liar. Adam and Horus, because Horus returned and called that soul fragment back from Thoth. And then Jesus, okay? And the moon all became one again. And this is how we become one with our Merkabah in the heart center again. It cannot be separate. So truly your Merkabah, when there's healing to do, represents outside of your heart space. When it's fully healed and aligned, it's going to be energetically connected in the center of the heart. And that is where we will balance. That's why we have to be in balance with the masculine and feminine. That's the new earth grid. Okay? So I hope this helped you understand a little bit of the Merkabah and the heart center at a chakra level, because I saw it and I did all of that work, and I did it to the earth also. So the earth had to become one at the heart center, her own heart center, with the Merkabah, again, a rebuilt Merkabah. We also had a walk-in divine masculine because of the journey and the battle that I went through. My original one did not make it, and we got a new one. The moon shifted in DNA coding, the earth did, and all of the masculine energy did as well. So we have to come into the healing and the totality of all of that. Okay? So this is why it's important that we cannot be separate as twin flames at all, because then you're pulling against that balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And when you're in separation internally and then physically, you are actually pulling against the divine masculine and the divine feminine and giving your power to the shadow. And same with all people, twin flame or not. If you are in separation, if you are not aligned with that divine masculine and divine feminine, your Merkabah becomes separate, karma becomes entangled in shadow. And you have to heal all that and be connected and co-creating with that. Okay? No matter what, you're co-creating with something. This is not just your earth. It's God's. Okay? Again, it got returned home. So I hope this video helped. If you guys have any questions about this, drop it in the comments. I'll be glad to answer it. I'll be glad to demonstrate, to prove. I've done many healings on people, not including the ascension and what I did to the earth. I guarantee you this is the truth. And this is the complexity of the Merkabah and the full understanding of it. And it's truly the power of God. And it did not just belong to David. It was not just David's star, but see, the separation of the divine masculine and the divine feminine is what threw off everything. And what allowed them to take power of the earth and create that false grid. Okay? And undoing Mount Shasta was no exception. That was a part of it too. That was all false. So much love, my friends. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day, game changers and soul warriors. This is a little bit of an understanding, or hopefully a full understanding of the Merkabah to the heart center and what it takes to realign that. Until next time, so much love. Everything I've talked about is on this channel in my playlist if you truly want to see the work that I've done and all of the things. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.